Kia ora. Try that again. Kia ora. Good morning, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Toni James. Just to show of hands, this is going to be participatory. Who does know me in this audience? Yay! Awesome. You're going to hear some stories you were probably a part of. And as someone said to me backstage, only an organizer would get away with this talk title. And so this title is left intentionally blank. The story behind this is basically, I was one of those people, and I missed the deadline to submit my talk. And talking to Kevin, he's like, don't worry, I'll take care of it. Thanks, Kevin. And this is what he did. He put in this title, left intentionally blank, this abstract, left intentionally blank. I was like, yeah, sure, no worries. But it's really hard to come up with a talk title. Words are hard, right? The other thing is, when I started working on this talk, a lot of my talks come out of frustration, right? Usually frustrated about something, and you just, you're digging into it, and you want to talk about it. And that's one style of talks. The other talks is when you talk about yourself. And this is a talk about me, it's about my journey, it's about my story, but I didn't want to give you any preconception of what this talk was about, because what you get out of this talk is going to be completely different, and what the next person gets out of this talk is going to be completely different. So this is a choose your own title. What really does this talk mean to you? This is a bit of a story about me and Chikan. It is technically not our 10-year anniversary, but it is our 10th conference, and I luckily was there from the very beginning. I was a software engineer intern. I was also a computer science student back in 2016. And I had a good friend of mine. We were both working as interns in the industry here in Christchurch, and we decided to go to an ISIG group. So basically a little security interest group, looked it up, found out it was happening up above Pomeroy's one night, and so we're like, sweet, we're going. And we went together, we walked in, we had just come from work, we're dressed up in our kind of business casual, and there were about 12 to 15 people in the room, all wearing black hoodies, all men. And it was super uncomfortable. Initially walking in and being like, oh, this is a little bit weird. But we were immediately swarmed by these 4 people who were like, hey, who are you? What are you doing here? How'd you hear about us? And it was really welcoming and inviting, and I'm pretty sure that Chris was talking about some nation-state actor, which completely went over our heads. But at the time, but as we were sitting there, we're like, okay, we gotta leave, we gotta get out. It was like, wait, you're not going anywhere. We're running a conference, and we want you to come. And so Dan and Kevin and Kim and Chris at the time were like, here's posters, you're at the university, can you get some students to come along? And I said, sure. I was like, what training are you doing? And they're like looking at each other. Like, we can do training. Yeah, training's good. Good idea. I was like, okay. I was like, well, how about I get a bunch of students to come together, and you can do like some type of Hacker 101 or InfoSec 101. And they're like, yeah, we can do that. I was like, okay, excellent. So that was the first conference I went to at Era Institute, 100 people. And I managed to get 25 people to attend the training, which I attended myself, and got a free hoodie, right? So first swag, got the free hoodie. The really interesting thing about this particular conference is the person that was with me at the time was like, oh, well, I might have a conference talk. And they're like, fantastic, that sounds great. And that was Grace. For those of you who might know who Grace is. And this is the famous, selfie for scale photo within her talk, but she just talked about the history of lockpicking. From here, she went on to deliver this talk to about 12 different conferences all over Australasia. just from starting at this conference. I also watched Alex, Mango PDF, pickpocket someone's wristwatch in the front of the stage, and I learned what fuzzing was. So all in all, to me, it was like a super successful conference. I'd met a few people, got to hang out with some friends. From there, went to work in the industry as a junior software engineer. And at this time, when you're in your late 30s, being called a junior anything is a bit annoying. So I'm really glad that the industry is changing terminology a little bit and going with associate as opposed to junior. But it was really funny being like, yay, I finally made it, Mom. I'm a junior engineer. But also along this time, Kevin and everyone within the Christchurch community, the Chicon community, was like, all right, you're giving a conference talk next year. I'm like, no, I'm not. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And you need to give a talk next year. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And I got really, really involved in CTFs. Was anyone at the 2017 Chicon? Yes? Woohoo, woohoo. Okay, so the 2017 Chicon, my first time speaking at a conference. I've got a 15-minute talk. I have never been more prepared for a talk in my entire life, and I never will be that prepared again. I had video, I had ready to do a live demo, because why not? But I had video backup, I had screenshots, I had everything ready to go. And as I'm walking up to the stage, Dan, who you saw earlier, looks at me and he's like, hey, by the way, the pizza isn't coming until noon, so can you talk for 45 minutes instead of 15? And I was like, sure, no problem. Thank goodness the live demo worked. Thank goodness the audience participated, and I converted a whole bunch of people to play CTF. So that was a lot of fun, and I also met some of these charming individuals. We went for a walk that day, because this was near the University of Canterbury campus, and we all took this picture under security, because I think at the time there's only one person in this photo that was actually working in security. Every single one was either a student or working in technology, software engineering. But point of that is that meeting all these like-minded individuals was really what made this place stick for me. Also, at that time, having a conversation with Kim and Dan and Kevin, and they're like, yeah, running a conference is really hard. I was like, it can't be that hard, right? And they're like, really? You want to try? And so they basically said, we would love for you to come on and help us organize this conference. And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? No problem, no biggie. So then for the 2018 conference, I got a promotion. I was no longer a junior software engineer, made my way up to be a software engineer, and a conference organizer. And we had we had a super, it was really a fun experience, but it was really interesting and really weird. You come into this group that have already been together for, years in the industry and know each other, and you're like that person that's, like the new puppy that's like, hey, can we do this? Hey, can we do this? Hey, can we do that? And I'm pretty sure it was me, and, any of the guys can, tell me I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was me that came up with the Tron theme. And I was like, wouldn't it be super cool if we had a Tron theme? And one thing that Chicon had in their back pocket was a really amazing graphic designer who absolutely did not want to be named, did not want to be recognized, but did the most amazing artwork for the conference. And this was such a cool, fun theme. One of the highlights of this particular conference were the badges. And we'll see if this is going to play for me. I don't know if anyone remembers these. Yeah, so shout out to Jeremy and Ryan. The other cool thing is that we had a soldering station. I'm pretty sure it's because Jeremy and Ryan were procrastinating and didn't actually get to put the badges together, so it was a build your own badge competition. But it was amazing badges. The video that you just saw was actually Metal Storm I think the entire conference he spent just playing with the badge and programming that particular badge. But it was a lot of fun having all of those different spaces for the conference. Let's see if this keeps playing for me. There we go. And then, while I had been working in software engineering, while I had been organizing conferences, I was also continuing to speak at conferences, I had someone message me and said, hey, looks like you're interested in security. Do you want to come work in security? And I was like, yes, please, thank you. So I ended up having an interview with a particular individual who was super supportive. It was really nerve-wracking because you're like, what do I need to know? What am I supposed to know? What should I know here? I studied again, like mad, looking at all the layers of security, trying to make sure that I could find risk and mitigation in just about everything and anything, of which he didn't ask me any of those questions in the interview. So I ended up working as finally a person in security in 2019. And this is when Frank came along and he moved us to the Rutherford Center, and we were in this big, massive church. Why are we always in churches? What is up with this, Frank? But we were in this beautiful church, so we paid homage to Rutherford with the atomic symbolism, which was a lot of fun. And this is where it really solidified the crew. So for those of you that haven't seen it, there's Dan, Kevin, Chris, and Frank at the time. And that was us all smiling at the end of the conference when it was all over and it wasn't so stressful. But it was definitely a good time. So I'd worked as a pen tester for a while, and it was fun. I really enjoyed it. Had a lot of those really fun moments where you have to call the customer within 30 minutes of looking at their application because it's so bad, you need to let them know they need to stop it right now. That was a lot of fun. The parts of it that weren't as fun is when you would look at, 6 months later, you would look at the same application and it had the same problems because they didn't actually apply anything you asked them to. So that got a little bit frustrating. But the crew I worked with was amazing. I learned so much from them, and everyone kind of had their own personality, their own niche, and we really enjoyed working together, and it was just a very intense job. But as you know, this was 2020. Everybody knows what happened in 2020. We had a bit of a lockdown in the country, so we moved to doing remote work, which is, again, pen testing remotely. That works, like we can do it. We had the equipment, we had the infrastructure to do that, and that was fantastic. Running a conference during COVID, that was the most stressful event, I think, of our entire lives, because we wanted to keep everyone safe, and we were the first and the only in-person conference at the time. We had spacing, we had all of the rules in place. It was just amazing. But it was also, as I'm wearing this shirt, again, we had it on Halloween. It was a lot of fun. I'm pretty sure Kevin wounded a few people by throwing hard candy into the audience. Like, not a simple toss, he just chucked it straight. So maybe that was a little bit of frustration. But this was the scene from the back, from the crew in the back. I would like everyone to give a round of applause because it takes a lot of work for that crew in the back. So please, thank you. But this was a setup. This was actually Ricky Burke doing his first conference talk about careers in security, and along those lines. We had a lot of really fabulous speakers, which was fantastic. This was also, I think, the first year that we did a hybrid conference where we allowed people to speak from online, speak at the conference online. I think we had thousands of people watching online. It was a really amazing event to pull it off. And then the year of burnout came. So I had been going hard for 5 years plus, I had changed my career. I had started when my daughter was 3 years old. I was doing full-time, driving into Christchurch about 100 Ks each way, and running a conference with my crew, and everything was perfect. I had the perfect job. I had the perfect, I'd made it. I was working remotely. I had gotten everything I wanted, but then I was so incredibly depressed, and I couldn't understand why. I thought there was something wrong with me, but I literally just burned the candle at both ends, and I got to that point of burnout. It doesn't help that at the same time this happened, my house was flooded, and I ended up having to move out of my house for 6 months. But when that happened, the security community, sent me a care package that had everything in it that you could possibly want, but most of all, this card that said, "We're here for you. If you need anything, we want you to ask. Anything you ask for, we'll be there for you." And that meant so much to me. Also at this time, different people in my life ended up reaching out, and people that I just kind of known as an acquaintance were all of a sudden having hour-long conversations with me and talking about, okay, where do I want to go with my career? What do I want to do? Where do I go next? And those particular people were like, try new things. Try something. If it doesn't work, that's okay. Go for it. And so I had a certain amount of time at this particular conference. Was a lot of fun because we had just so many hidden things everywhere. Like the whole conference was littered with Easter eggs and little CTF clues. It was also a time where we might have drank a lot to just recover. The pictures here are both my hands with clues on them for the CTF. But yeah, I thought it was funny when I was looking back through pictures that this was the particular year that there were quite a few pictures with us having a drink, because it was it was a tough year for me to get through, but I had the support of the community around me to do that, which was amazing. And then 2022 happened, and I made it. Like, all of a sudden, I was past that point of burnout. I had found my place. I had something that could take my software engineering, something that could take my security, all of my various security roles, and put them together. And I became a security engineer for an international company, which allowed me to now move. Well, part of that was to move back to the States at some point in time. To be fair, I've been in New Zealand for 20 years. So it was time to go back to Colorado and spend a bit of time there and have some powder. But this was a really special year for me because this particular conference was our Canterbury Hacker Camp. We had this up in Hammer Springs, and again, big kudos to Frank for putting all of this together. I know it was incredibly stressful, but this to me was kind of the big finale. This is like my contribution to Chicon was to have this kind of American style. Everyone goes to Hacker Camp. It has a good time. We had kind of all gone through COVID and back again, and this was a really unique experience. And I know it was super hard to do, but I really, really, really enjoyed this. And this right here is kind of the picture that kind of encompasses the entire culmination of my time with Chicon and my time in New Zealand and my time in the security community. Is we're all sitting around roasting marshmallows for s'mores, and we're having these talks, our fireside chats, which were amazing. And for all of this, the biggest point of kind of where I'm at in my career is because the community is what helped me get there. And being part of Chicon, being part of this crew, volunteering, organizing, speaking, kind of being there for other people, mentoring, and really taking words of wisdom from so many people here, allowed me to get where I'm at in my career. And I recently had an event, as I told someone earlier, where I lost my job, but my position was eliminated. and I put out the call and said, hey, my position was eliminated. If anyone has anything, let me know. And that very day, I had 3 offers in my inbox. And it was not because of my resume, it was because of my involvement in the community and the people that I had around me. So ultimately, whatever you take from this talk, please think about where you're at, what you need, what works for you, whether you can volunteer, whether you can attend. Thank you for being here, because nothing happens without everyone here in the room. Thank you for the speakers who put up talks. If you feel like you have nothing to talk about, come have a conversation with me, because I guarantee you have something to talk about. Everybody does. Everybody has a unique story. But ultimately, this is the end of my talk on this picture, sitting around the campfire with the community that's in this room. Thank you. I hope everyone has a wonderful day here at Chicon, and I appreciate you giving your time to me. So, thank you, everybody.
I am a super genius.